As a psychotherapist, I listen to people's inner lives every day. It's very common for my clients to say that they say things to me in therapy what they don't even say out loud to their own selves. Every day, for hours, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, I listen to people. 6 years on, my hair is graying, and I carry the wisdom from hundreds of lives. So recently, I asked myself a very basic question. What have I learned from listening to over 5,000 hours of people's inner lives? And is there a way for me to translate these learnings into lessons which can be shared with audiences like today's? So this pursuit led me to my reviewing my psychotherapy notes spread over thousands of pages, over 750 individuals. As I combed through a lot of these powerful, rich narratives, there are three powerful themes that emerged for me, which I'm sharing with you today. These are parenting and attachments, relationships, and happiness. And is there a way for us to connect these three? So why parenting? Because we are all born into some parenting setup, whether those are our biological parents, whether those are our uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, cousins, grandparents, or institutions such as orphanages, foster, or other caring systems. So the first thing I discovered is that the warmth and presence of good caregivers may have stayed with individuals even decades later. One gentle look, asking a child, "How are you doing? I'm interested. Tell me more. I'm here." Whether that were coming from a parent or a grandparent, a teacher, a counselor, a head teacher, a principal, a professor, that may have gone to change and steer the course of people's lives. On the contrary, not everyone's that lucky. We bear imprints of even devastating impacts of negative life events, violence, abuse, neglect, distress, death, disability. A parent bearing imprints of mental health or addictive disorders. A child who's had those earlier experiences may reel under the effects of them for many decades to come. If that's happening in your home, put an end to it today. Speak to children about matters of safety. A child even as young as 2 or 3 years of age may remember some of these life events even at 40 or 50. The second thing I've discovered is that the childhood sexual abuse is extremely rampant in our society. Children between ages of 6 to 12, boys and girls, whether they come from joint families or nuclear families, are extremely vulnerable to childhood sexual abuse at the hands of extended family members, cousins, household staff, religious teachers, and institutions such as madrasas or boarding schools. The best protective factor that I have found has not been vigilance, but it's been awareness, where children, as soon as they can label body parts, are told about protection and safety, and parents speak to children, and they encourage without shame for children to come and speak to the parents if there is ever any transgression. If we do not do that, children even at 40, 50, 60 will remember the devastating impact of childhood sexual abuse. Encouraging effort and not result. As adults, we may not remember our grades or the awards or the trophies you won, but you may remember the humiliation or someone making fun of you or someone pulling your leg. What I'd suggest is that really let children do their own thing. Encourage them to do their work. Don't romanticize your past. It's not a competition of generations. What your grandparents did, you may not be doing that, and what you're doing, your kids may not do that. Remember, there are more than 7.5 billion people on this planet, each bearing their own thumbprint. Someone like your child has literally never been born in the history of this planet. So what tells you that your family's legacy or your own experiences are a good blueprint for them? Let them really discover their own path. Plant that seed, nurture that soil, water them regularly, and really stand back and watch them grow. Make room for children to make their mistakes. If children are denied some of these earlier relational, financial, occupational, academic, or other mistakes, they will never learn critical thinking or problem-solving skills. only prevent life-threatening situations. Children who do not make these mistakes earlier on may turn into adults who may make bigger mistakes where the stakes are actually higher. If you're parents of children who you've raised to be 24, congratulations. Your child's brains are now almost fully developed. They have more terao, grounding, and well, hopefully they'll not hate you as much. Hopefully. Becoming an I before I become a we. Parents who are not separated from their own parents, parents who have mental health disorders or who are addicted to substances, I don't subscribe to a societal prescription of marriage fixing that. I have seen how continually failing marriages are a lot more damaging than a failed marriage. Children can still recover from those. Children who are produced to help a failing marriage stay together, or marriage that stay together for the sake of the kids, that societal prescription is rife with a lot of trouble. I haven't found that to be very effective. Relationships. Although this is how we've learnt them to be, or from our dramas, or from fiction or cartoons or our Disney cartoons, always telling us there's a happily ever after, real-life adult relationships really don't look like these songs. They're very complicated. They make and break just to make again, to break again. They're complex, they're non-linear, they're messy. They take a lot of work. The amount of time we've spent into our academic or careers, that's the amount of time our relationships take. Another thing I've learned about relationships is that we need to teach our boys emotional vocabulary. We are operating with a very outdated definition of masculinity, that over-eroticized, macho definition where men are men and men don't feel, and they're always on the prowl looking for novelty. That is not only highly unrealistic, but very toxic. Men are also tender husbands and caring fathers and chefs and writers and filmmakers. A man who can say, I'm feeling hurt, will go on not to hurt their child and their wife, and that child will grow to not hurt his wife or child. In therapy, men and women discover very deeper reasons for their being in pain and their causing pain to other people. So what you see is only the tip of the iceberg. What you see me right now and what people see about you is right there. But why the Titanic crashed is deeper in the 90% of the mass of the iceberg that's unseen. That's where the deeper reasons of our behavior are. So if you find yourself critical, if you find yourself defensive, if you find yourself neglectful, ask yourself, what are you needing? What do you see in other people? Is there something you are transferring from your childhood onto this person right now? If getting along with our in-laws was that easy, we won't have those many in-law jokes and memes. Men and women have spent decades fighting about their respective parents, just to go on to regret all the time that they spent doing that. Instead, if men and women focus on the relationship with each other, these conversations don't bite as much. Which brings me to my final theme of meaning and happiness. Why meaning and happiness? We're a species that's looking for meaning to our existence. And here's what I've discovered about happiness. Men and women who have been to hell and back, they've recovered from their adversity by finding a cause and working on that, by loving another person, by raising a good family, by producing a work that is deeper and meaningful for them. It's in these pursuits that men and women have recovered from the most dehumanizing aspects of adversity, of death, of neglect, of abuse. Happiness is to be discovered like a non-toothache. It's only till we have a toothache that a non-toothache becomes a blessing. And for us, we need to discover our happiness just like that. It may not seem very apparent right now, but ask yourself right now, in this moment, is there something you feel gratitude towards? relinquishing the idea of a better past. We spend hours every day trying to build a better past or trying to prevent a worse future. Whereas if we can just check into the now, that's where the most deeper inner stirrings and our reality and our past and our future and everything is. The more we check in, I have heard courageous men and women who've been to hell and back live and make decisions, ask, is this wise? Is this honest? Is this truthful? Is this kind? Is this helpful? Isolation only exists in isolation. Once shared, it evaporates. Stop being stingy. Share something. Say thank you. Write to a teacher. Say thank you to an adult who steered the course of your life. Say sorry. If you've been mindless, tell someone I've been mindless when I said those hurtful things. In my working with a lot of older individuals looking back at their lives, they have gone on to regret some things which I'm sharing with you. They have regretted thinking about and working and spending their times in a lot of things rather than the things that mattered. In their investing into assets and properties, then in relationships and families. In their worrying about things that happened anyway. In their spending time pleasing people. In their not saying no when they wanted to say no. In their being stuck in relationships and work which they didn't want to. So which brings me to some final thoughts. How are these three things connected? Parenting, relationships, and happiness. And here's the golden nugget. Good enough parenting, which doesn't necessarily need to have come from parents, but good enough parenting opens the doors for our brain to have the function and the structure that supports later life adult relationships. And these later life good enough adult relationships, such as friendships, work relationships, romantic relationships, our relationships with our own parents and our children, these open the doors for happiness and meaning that people go on to enjoy. So all my wandering over thousands of hours of work, having heard hundreds of individuals, I asked one final question. What is the ultimate cure? If there were that one thing that I could share with the most brilliant minds of this country, and possibly the world, what would that be? What's that one thing that cures and heals and brings us back to a sense of aliveness, meaning, safety, and security? And ladies and gentlemen, here's what I can share. There is one such tool. When you pair this tool with an empathic and a non-judgmental therapist, this tool works wonders and heals people. And I'm sharing this tool with you. Here's $1 million solution. Ladies and gentlemen, this works. A tissue box and a good therapist and a good cry, it works wonders. Thank you.